Hey folks, welcome back to another episode of Dragons and Dice, and it's time for our fantasy character build of the month. And since we've been focusing on the gunslingers the last couple of weeks, I thought why not keep that trend going by building one of my favorite gunslingers from any of the series I've ever read. And that's going to be Waxillium Ladrain from the Brandon Sanderson series, The Alloy of Law, which is the second part of the Mistborn saga. This series is just awesome. It takes all the amazing scientific abilities that the first Mistborn series had, and you get thrown into technologies growing, and now it's like a Western feel and the start of industrial civilization. And it is just such a good backdrop for all those amazing Mistborn abilities from the first series. And the characters, I have to say, Wax and Wayne, probably two of my favorite Brandon Sanderson characters of all time. And that's saying something because there's a lot of really good ones. But for this episode, let's check out what Wax can do. Welcome to Dragons and Dice. Little disclaimer before we start. There will be spoilers in this. I will be giving out information that happens throughout the series of the books. There's 4 of them in this second set. They're all really good. It's a really good story. But if you don't want spoilers, you might not want to listen to this until you've read the books. All that being said, let's hop in with what Wax can do. So his name's Waxillium Ladrain. Everyone calls him Wax. This name's a mouthful to say. I'm going to call him Wax from here on out. He is what they call a twinborn. That means that he has the power of allomancy, which is the ability to burn metals and get an ability, or the power of feruchemy, which is the ability to store certain things. Like you can either store health or store weight, and it lets you basically store an attribute in what they call a mind. And his are iron because he is an iron mind, and he is what they call a skimmer. He is able to store his mass in these iron minds. This makes for a really interesting mechanic as he can manipulate his weight, and he can also push on metal. So he can use this to his advantage when he needs to move around the field. He can drop a gun casing or any piece of metal, push off of it, then he can reduce his weight while he's doing this, storing it in his iron mines, and that lets him fly farther than a normal coin shot would be able to because he's twinborn. And on the other side of it, when he goes to shoot something, he can also increase his mass. And this gives him the ability to really have a lot of oomph behind his bullets, because what he'll do, he'll increase his mass, he'll fire his gun, and then he'll push on the back of the bullet. And that lets him punch through defenses where normal bullets might not be able to get through. And then he gets a handful of other abilities later on in the books, but we won't go too much into that. All that being said, let's see if we can squeeze all these things that this guy can do into 20 levels of a D&D character. We're going to start out, like I said, with the Gunslinger. And my theory on this build is that we're going to build the quintessential lawman, because Wax is a really stand-up. I mean, he'd be lawful good 100% of the time. And we're going to take a lot of Gunslinger levels. That's going to be his main ability set. There's going to be a homebrewed item or two in here to get that feruchemy feel, because that is something that is hard to add in D&D. You can increase your size, but you can't just increase your mass and stay the same. So got a little homebrew coming for that. Let's go level 1. We'll pick out all our starting goodies and go from there. We will start off with our background, and for that, we're going to go noble. Wax is actually a nobleman of the city of Ellendale, and he goes out to the roughs. He spends 20 years out there being a lawman and fighting crime out in the basin. But when he comes back, his house is kind of in shambles, and he has to get all his businesses in order. And he basically becomes a senator or congressman, and he is a real champion of the people. And for that, I feel like noble is on point for what he is. We get the skilled origin feat here. And for that, the first one I'm going to grab up, investigation. You're a cop. Investigating is something you're going to do a lot of. Seems really on point. The other ability that I want right here is intimidation, because sometimes you got to, lay down the law a little bit and, intimidate a perp. And then the third one that I'm going to pick is actually going to be the alchemy kit, because when you're an allomancer, you dissolve metals in little vials, and this will be a way for Wax to basically mix his own allomancy vials that he takes. He likes to mix his with whiskey. His wife doesn't want him to. She mixes it with cod liver oil because it's a little healthier, but he hates the taste. And who doesn't need a good shot of whiskey when you're about to start a fight? So for our skill increases, I'm going to throw 1 point into charisma and 2 points into strength. We're going to want that because at some point I'm going to want to take a couple pally levels to work out the feel of the character, even though it's a little suboptimal for starting out. For species, I'm going to keep it simple. Wax is a human. We'll just go human. Although I was tempted to go old school half elf because he does have Terrace blood and that gives them tan skin. And he is actually like, that's where his feruchemy powers come from and his allomancy powers come from, like the human side of him. But that doesn't really work with the 2024 material so much because half elves are gone. So we'll keep it simple. We'll go with human. This is also going to give us an origin feat that's going to be really nice for a couple of our abilities that we want to be able to grab up. Wax doesn't really cast spells, but he has a few abilities that a spell will mimic really well. So first little sidebar here. I'm never sure how much to go into the minutia of each of these books because, like I said, there's 4 of them. They're 500 pages long. That's, 2,000 pages worth of material. But really quick, Wax is basically a savant when it comes to still pushing. He has a couple abilities that are really unique amongst coin shots. He is able to manipulate steel so well that he is able to hover when he uses his still pushes. So if he's like got something on the ground, he can just float above it. This is really rare for coin shots. Most of them have to bob up and down as they push, release, push, release, push, release, and so on. And the other amazing thing that Wax can do is he keeps up a small deflection bubble that he calls a still bubble, where he is constantly pushing against metal around him, but it doesn't affect the metal on him or his shots. And this is a great defense as it makes most bullets veer off just a little bit. Like even if someone was trying to snipe him from a long ways away, when the bullet got within close range, it would be veered off just a little bit. And all that's to say, I want to go into this so I can say why we're taking magic initiative, because we want to be able to grab up a couple spells that'll mimic this. So I'm going to take the shield spell here. He never actually casts magic, but the shield spell will mimic like someone goes to attack you and you're able to throw this off. I'm going to pick charismas for the spell casting on these. And we also get 2 cantrips. For the 2 cantrips, I want the new one from the Gunslinger books. It's called Finger Guns, and this is a bonus action activate. And then we can, point our hand at something, and this is going to be like us shooting a bullet or a piece of metal without actually having a gun. Because a lot of coin shots can actually, that's how they fight. They just shoot metal at things. To the point that Wax likes his gun so much, they have to actually point out that he doesn't really need them to fire a bullet. He can just push the bullet at somebody. And the other one that I want to get is Blade Ward, and this will simulate our still bubble. It'll give us a concentration spell to have up, and it's just up all the time. And then if we really need it, we can really push against it and cast that shield spell. So I think the magic initiative gives us a really good feel kicking it off. For stats, I'm going to take standard array as I do for a lot of these because we end up needing to be a little bit flatter. We're going to do a 12 strength plus 2, gives us a 14. We'll start off with 15 dex, 14 con. Intelligence will be our dump stat of 8. We'll do a 10 wisdom, and then we'll do a 13 charisma plus 1 for 14. It's kind of flat, but it lets us jump around and get the feel we want. I will say it's always the hardest to do the stats on these builds because the heroes and the antagonists from like these fantasy character builds, they're like 18s and everything, like, or maybe they have 1 dump stat and everything else is max. It's hard to get the feel without being a little flat. And then, like we said, we're going to start off as our class is going to be Gunslinger. We're going to get 2 proficiencies, and that's going to be Perception and Insight. Those are 2 great lawman skills. And then for our fighting style, we're going to take Archery. We can push our bullets super fast and make them very accurate, and this will give us a little bit of extra pop when they hit and be right on point with that. And then for weapon masteries, we're going to go with revolvers and a double barrel shotgun. One of the things that Wax does is he carries a shotgun on his back so that when he's flying through the air, like still pushing, he can lower his weight and then he can use the shotgun blast to redirect him. So if he doesn't have something to push off of, he can't move himself in any direction and he can't pull himself toward anything. So he uses the shotgun by like reducing his weight and then firing it in the air and letting that kick drive him to the left or the right to dodge stuff or to get on track for where he needs to be. And we want to have that feel, so we're going to take the shotgun as our second one. At level 2, we're still a gunslinger. We get that awesome increased crit rate on 19 now, and we also get our wrist die. I'm not going to go over all the wrist maneuvers. That's on the last 2 podcasts. Those will all be there. You can check those out on the Gunslinger breakdown one if you like. But we get the ability to do that now. And then at level 3, we get our subclass, and we're going with the white hat. I mean, we literally get an ability called Steel-Eyed Aura, which is so on point for a coin shot. It's like they were made to go together. We get the Lay Down a Law ability, Maneuver, which is really cool too. And then the other thing that we need to add in right here, because early in his career, Wax, when he's out in the roughs, he doesn't wear his fancy nobleman's clothes. He wears a mist cloak, which, if you know anything about the books, are these like cool, tassely, billowy cloaks. And so we're going to give him a cloak of billowing just to mimic his awesome cloak. It doesn't really do anything for us mechanically, but I like the flavor of it. Now, at level 4, I want to do a small dip here for flavor. Wax has an earring that he got early on his way out into the roughs, and he puts it in when he needs to pray to Harmony. And Harmony is the main god on Scandriel, where this whole series takes place. And it lets Harmony speak back to him because it is actually a hemalurgic spike. And hemalurgic spikes, for the people who don't know, are a spike you can place in your body, and it'll give you the abilities of an Allomancer while that spike's in your body. So I want to take a little Warlock dip to mimic that ability of him kind of having a god and a patron that he can talk to when he puts this earring in. And we get an invocation. The first thing I'm going to take with that is we want to be able to keep that still bubble up that we're concentrating on. And for the invocation, I'm going to take the Eldritch Mind to get advantage on concentration saving throws. We get 2 cantrips here and 2 first level spells. Let's take Hellish Rebuke, and the flavor is going to be like when you get hit, like somebody actually gets through, I'm going to flavor that as like I'm shooting a bullet back at them. And the flavor I would have on any spell attack is that it's like I'm returning fire with the gun, and all my spell attacks would be like a shot fired, basically. You know, flavor's free. Do that as you will. The other one that I want to take is Detect Magic. And for this one, I actually would want to work with the DM and put a little nerf on it, because one of the things that coin shots can do is they can sense metals. So the only Detect Magic I would be able to do, I would use this as a way to sense magical metals, but nothing else. So if it wasn't metal, I would just have the DM be like, nope, don't tell me about it. And then since we get to take a couple cantrips, I'm going to take Thunderclap. I like the flavor on this one. One of the things that Wax does is he uses what he calls Haze Killer rounds against other Allomancers. So Allomancy really dials your senses up. He'll use like shots that make really loud bangs or have bright flashes, and Thunderclap kind of gives you that feel. And then the other one that I want to take for my other cantrip is going to be Mage Hand, but I also want to limit this one as I can only move metal objects with it, and I can only push them away. So it's like a way to mimic my coin shot ability by kind of nerfing down the spells. And a little DM note here, I think it's fun to change up spells like that a bit to make the flavor right. It's not adding anything to the mechanics. It's actually taking away a little bit to put a limit on the character, and like it gives the character that's playing this a chance to like really focus, like, oh, I can push stuff away, but I can't pull. It gives you an interesting way to think about stuff. Creativity really grows in a box. So if your mage hand can't just like, oh, I'm going to reach and grab that, but you can take something and put it somewhere, it gives you a lot of stuff to work with when you do that. I think not just on character builds, that just DM and players in general, if you have something that fits for flavor, limit a spell down, let it only work against this or only do that. I think it's great and adds a lot of character to the game. Level 5, we're going to go back to Gunslinger. We're going to get our level 4 feat here. We get another weapon mastery. And one of the things, Wax is pretty adept with knives, so we're going to take a dagger here as it'll give us a melee option. And we're going to also grab the Mage Slayer feat. That'll boost our dex up to 16. We get that awesome ability if we fail a Wisdom, Intelligence, or Charisma save now. But the real fun of it is that it now messes up other people's concentration, and this is going to be a way of us mimicking that we're really good against fighting other Allomancers, because those will be people that have like concentration spells up. And level 6, we're Gunslinger 5, and we get extra attack, and we get our gut shot feature. And here's where I want to add in the homebrewed item to get that feel that we really want. So the ability to alter your weight without changing sides is really hard to come by in D&D. I couldn't find it. Someone has found it. That'd be awesome if you let me know. But I think what I got here will help us mimic that Ferrochemy power just nicely. Now it's time for the homebrewed item of the week. This week's homebrewed item is going to be Wax's Iron Mines. And this is going to be an ebb and flow type item where the first ability gives you charges to use for the second. This item is composed of 2 iron bands worn around the upper arms. As a bonus action, you can start storing your weight in the bands. Each round that you do this, you gain 1 charge of mass. The bands hold up to 5 charges. Doing this has a couple effects. When you activate this, you get the effects of a jump spell, as in you're basically pushing off the ground. So with that same bonus action, you get the jump spell. And if you would land over something that is metal, you get the hover effect. Your speed is increased by 10 feet, but your to hit is reduced by 2 as you are lighter and the kick of your guns pushes you back more. After you have charges of mass, you can use a bonus action to reverse the flow and increase your weight. You can keep doing this at the start of each round that you have a charge for free actions after it's activated. And while your mass is increased, you're immune to prone and push effects. Your speed is halved from your base speed, not from the plus 10, and your AC drops by 2 as you can evade very well. But now when you fire your bullets, they do extra damage die. So if you're using a revolver and they were firing for 2d6, they now do 4d6. Our shotgun will go from 1d12 to 2d12. And you can keep this up for as long as you have charges. I like the feel this gives as you get the boon and bane with both sides, and you really have to work out how you want it to go. Easy fights, you would probably want to store up weight, and then when big fights come and you need the extra damage, you would increase your mass. And this is something that Wax does a lot. He walks through town at like 3/4 weight. That way he's constantly storing mass. And I think this ability, giving you an ebb and flow with a boon and a bane on both sides of it, works out really nicely to mimic that Ferrochemy power. At level 7, I want to grab another Warlock level here. Wax throughout the books becomes more and more attuned and becomes Harmony's champion. And so for that feel, I wanted to sprinkle in a couple Warlock levels here early on. This is going to get us 2 more evocations. I'm going to take Otherworldly Leap, and this will be a way for us to mimic our steel pushes and us flying through the air. And then for the second one, I want to take Lessons of the Firstborn, and I want to grab up the Tough Feat. Urkon's kind of low, and Wax is actually really resilient. He's been shot like 14 times, and he can take a beating when he needs to. And so this will kind of make up for the feel of Wax being a little squishy mechanically by taking that Tough Feat here. And then we'll also get 1 more spell here. And I'm going to grab Hex because I like the flavor on it. When we fire those Haze Killer bullets, we're kind of targeting like, oh, this one's a flash for someone who is a 10-eye and can see really well and really attuned to things. And so Hex kind of lets us hex what would be the governing attribute to their allomancy powers. And then it lets us just hit those people a little bit harder too, which is never a bad thing. Level 8, let's go back to Gunslinger, and we're going to stay here for a while. Right now we get our Reach for the Sky abilities, which is, really cool as Wax, it's really on point for him. He is always let's try to arrest them first, and if they have to be X-nayed, that's the last resort. Level 9, we're Gunslinger 7. We get Evasion, and this is just our Steel Bubble is getting even better that now when we pass that save, it misses us completely, but when we fail the save, the Steel Bubble still pushed that bullet off a little bit. Level 10, we're Gunslinger 8. We get a feat, and I think it's time to just start boosting dex up to make our shots better, so we'll bump that by 2 to 18. Level 11, we're Gunslinger 9. We get better crit rate. I will have to say the increased crit rate on just the base Gunslinger class is really awesome. It's really OP, and I just love having an expanded crit rate. At level 12, we're going to be a Gunslinger 10, and we get another weapon mastery here. And now I'm going to take the cannon because Wax has what he calls the big gun, and it does explosions and shoots out shrapnel, which is really nice for a coin shot because when the explosion happens, you can push on the shrapnel and send it flying in all kinds of different directions. So we're going to take the cannon. I'd probably add one of those in so we can fire that big explosive round when we need to. We also get our Long Arm of the Law ability here, which is just amazingly good control. When you shoot somebody, you can just hobble them and knock their speed down. At level 13, we're going to be a Gunslinger 11. This is nice because we get to start adding our dex mod to our ranged attacks of firearms now. Always good, just makes us hit harder. And then level 14, we're going to be a Gunslinger 12. We're going to max out our dex with that other feat here and just bump it all the way up to 20. We just got the ability to add it to our shots, so it's really nice. Helps with saves, helps with armor, and we hit harder. All great things. Level 16, we're going to be a Gunslinger 14, and we get our capstone gold star hero. And our steely-eyed aura goes up to 30 feet now. And we give out resistance when we use our lay down the law. And now our reach for the sky, instead of incapacitating people, stuns people, which is so good. And now we have like all our white hat lawman capstone abilities. So at level 17, we've kind of finished off our career as a gunslinger. I want to start taking some pally levels here. I don't really like any of the Warlock subclasses, or otherwise I would take another level there so we actually had a true patron. But the abilities just don't really mimic what Wax can do. But I think some pally levels seem to fit just the thing to give us the feel. At the end of the Lost Metal, Wax inhales a bit of Lerasium, and it makes him like a weak Mistborn, which gives him the ability to burn all the different metals. And he also gets a Duraluminum spike, which is like basically nitro for Allomancy. It'll let you like do a burst attack and like burn all your metals off in like one quick but super strong burst of it. And so I think the best feel that we could get for that would be smites, because it's like you made a normal attack, but then bang, you just added in a ton of extra damage. And I think Pally's going to really fit that feel for us. At 17, we're going to be a Paladin 1. We're going to get 2 extra weapon masteries right here. We don't really need them. We kind of have all the weapons that we're going to use. I might take a quarterstaff and flavor that to be a cane that he carries with him when he's in Elendil doing politics. And we get 2 spells, the first of which I am definitely taking the new Ballistic Smite that is from the Gunslinger book. It lets us add a 2d6 of elemental damage onto a shot, and it can be upcast for an extra d6. And then the other one I'm going to take is the other one from the Gunslinger book called the Perforating Shot. And this lets, when you hit or miss someone, to make that bullet extend to its full range in a straight line. And the flavor on this is going to be like, we get our mass up and we push a bullet so hard that it just punches through the first person, and the same thing through the second and the third, and it just travels to the full range of the bullet. I really like it. We also get lay on hands here. That's not really going to be, mechanically it's great to have in game. It's not really an ability he has, but we get it. At level 18, we're a Paladin 2, and we get a fighting style, and I would go dueling. I know we have 2 revolvers, and I would really like to have the 2 weapon fighting, but they aren't considered light weapons, so we don't really get anything from that. And since as a gunslinger we can draw and stow extra weapons each round, we just pull the first one out, we shoot it till it's empty, we pull the second one out. This is going to give us that +2 to hit. This is going to be really nice with our archery. We get that +2 to hit. Now we get +2 damage from the dueling. And we also get Paladin Smite here, which is a freebie and always great to have to add on to make our shots hit just a bit harder. At level 19, we're going to be a Paladin 3, and I think the best one for Wax is going to be Oath of Vengeance. No better way to show that Duraluminum spike activating than use that Channel Divinity, and now we just have advantage on everything we attack, and we're just never going to miss, and it just feels right. I mean, Wax, he's an upright guy, but he isn't above dealing out a little bit of retribution when, crap hits the fan. We also get a couple of extra spells here. I think for the flavor, I would just grab up smites, like Searing Smite and Thunderous Smite. It'll be the same reason that we took Thunderclap Cantrip at the start. These are ways of like, we're shooting a special bullet that's to target this or to target that. And we'll just use those smites as a way of like showing what our little haze killer rounds are doing. And then level 20, we're gonna cap out at Pally 4. We're gonna get one more spell. You can take whichever one you want. I would probably get Command Duel. It seems fitting for a gunslinger to challenge a duel. But then we get that epic boon, and I want the boon of Irresistible Offense. We're gonna boost our dex by 1, so that when we roll a 20. And oh man, it would be so nice if that boon of Irresistible Offense was when you crit, because with our expanded crit range, it would just be great. But when we roll a 20, we'll get to add 21 damage to the shot. And the reason that I really want this is that we can overcome defenses now, and no one can resist our bludgeoning, piercing, or slashing damage, as we just push these bullets too hard. And it just makes the feel of every time he shoots, he hits, and you can't really do much to stop it. So let's check out what all we can do with Wax here, our homebrewed item, it kind of makes a little bit of a traffic jam on bonus actions because we have maneuvers to do from a gunslinger, we have a homebrewed item that takes bonus actions, and we have paladin smites that take bonus actions. But for the fun of the stats, I'm going to say that we're being pretty smart about using that homebrewed item. We're taking our little fight and we're storing up weight. And this is exactly what Wax does in the books. He stores weight when it's not important, and then when he needs to use it, he's got those charges there. So we'll say for the small fights, we've charged up and we have our iron mines ready to increase our mass when we start. Turn 1, we're going to move to where we want to. We'll activate our iron mines. We'll take 2 shots. We'll activate our paladin duraluminum spike and channel our divinity to get advantage. And we're going to do 8d6 plus 14. And we also have a plus 13 to hit. We feel really good with advantage that we're just never going to miss. Round 2, we can keep our iron mines going, take 2 shots, but now we can throw a smite on there too for an extra 2d8. We got all our gunslinger maneuvers when we need them. And if we need to get out of dodge, we can reverse our bands, take that free jump spell, and get away. We end up with like a 17 armor class and 187 HP. We have really great dex and charisma saves. And if we were to fail in a wisdom, intelligence, or charisma save, that mage slayer ability will let us just keep going. And I just love the feel of this character. We come soaring into battle, anchor down, put out a bunch of damage. And then if we need to still push our way to safety, we got all that CC and support capabilities that the White Hat Gunslinger class has built it right into it. Well, folks, that's it for this episode of Dragons and Dice, and this was our fantasy character build out for the month of June. I hope you all enjoyed it, and if you do, please tell a friend about us, leave a like, a review, and a follow. And as always, thank y'all for being here. Y'all rock, and I hope y'all have a great week. Until next time, may your DMs be kind, may your D20s roll high. Bye.